Oh, we're on the live stream again. We're live streaming again, guys. Take two. I wonder if we were the only ones caught out by that decision. This is the pre-show, so I'm going to say hello once again to my panel of varying awakeness. And if you click in the link in the show notes below, then there'll be a little timer, and that will go to where the program starts, where the race review starts. But hey, I do like to sit here and kind of decompress, check everything's going okay, that you can hear us. I've always got that suspicion that I'm going to be miming. Pretty sure people can hear us now. Hello, Discord. I've also still got a coffee coming up. My grateful children, hello, Adrian, are going to bring me a brew any minute now, right? I won't hold out too much hope. Hello, Adrian in the live chat. Has everyone else given up on this on the stream? Because we made a good fisted go of it earlier, and we did record some good content. So the thing is, we had the axe, the sword of Damocles, hanging over us for the whole show about this investigation, and it just didn't come. The decision just wasn't coming. So at some point, you've got to make the call, and we decided, no, we're going to stop. We're going to wait for the decision. But we did cover the midfield. So the way it's going to work is that we'll talk about the decision in the introduction, and then we'll do our awards. So it's going to be a little bit arse about face, and then I will play what we recorded earlier out, and then I'll come back on to say goodbye. Obviously, struggling with the voice this morning. Hello, Chris. What's that emoji for? Why the pukey emoji? But I had the news feeds open, so did Jono, so did Matt, and we were constantly scrolling and refreshing because Chris Medland said, and this is Chris Medland's fault, these things are normally a slam dunk. It's not going to take long. So we're just like, yeah, any minute now, we're going to get a decision from the thing. Anyway, so I think I know the reasons why it took a long time, but we just decided, right, we've got to call time on this. So, yeah, Matt's here. Hi, Matt. Last time you were... Hi.
Yep, I'm here. I'm completely awake. I'm not artificially stimulated at all. And hilariously, as I went to make my morning espresso, my wife was just watching the race. She was on lap 17, and I thought, oh, you poor soul.
Yeah, but at what point are you going to tell her?
After as soon as the race is over, I'm like, you're never going to guess what happens.
No, what you should then do is then let her go on her own journey of discovery of like next time she pops on Twitter or whatever and sees that there's been a DQ. Chris is asking, is this a canon podcast? Toby says, hi all, looking forward to this. Yes, this is a canon podcast. This isn't a Spanners pod. Although I do get a cup of tea from my beloved eldest son. Get to work on that personal statement, lad. Cheers. Can you shut the door for me, please, lad? Thank you. Speaking of lads, we've got another lad here, Jono. How old are you, Jono?
Wow. Do you want my bank account details as well?
I just want, vague age. I didn't realize you were going to be such a diva about it.
No, I'm turning 30 in January, and I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it.
It's a weird one.
This year. It is very weird. Yeah. I don't know whether to look forward to it or not, but it seems like your 30 spanners went really well, I would say.
So I had 34 as my age on my bios and everything. And if you ask ChatGTP, it's pretty convinced that I'm 34. And so it's so funny. If I'm immature on Twitter, which I often am, people go, you're a 34-year-old man. I'm like, I get away with it. So I've changed my bio to 74 to see if the AI... In fact, I'm going to go on a mission to get AI to like scrape crazy facts about me. I might write a blog about how I once wrestled a bear or something.
You're just going to wind up not being able to fly anywhere because no one will believe anything on your passport.
Believe it or not, it doesn't say Spanners on my passport, so probably going to be okay. So obviously we had to deal with the disqualification. Thank you, guys. Me and Matt have gone back and got some sleep. Jono, I think, has been tracking Max Verstappen in the air for some reason.
Yeah, thanks for selling me under the bus there, Spanners. Yes,
I didn't realize it was a secret obsession.
No, it is. I've been so bored because after the McLaren disqualification, we got all the information. I didn't know what to do. So I tracked Max Verstappen's flight on Flight Radar. I think he's next to Montreal at the moment, which I'm pretty sure everybody who's listening right now understands Montreal is. Now, I'm about to reveal something that nobody knows. The most polite city in North America. Matter of fact, maybe number one of all time.
Okay.
That's complete sarcasm. By the
Oh,
way.
isn't it? Oh, right. Oh, well, I didn't know because
Yeah.
the Canadians have got that reputation, haven't they?
Oh, well, we're talking about French Canada here. Anyway,
Right.
I love
Say no-
Montreal.
say
It's one of
no
my
more.
favorite places, but my word, it was an experience going there.
Well, that's the same. That's the same in France. Like it's Paris, especially. Obviously, that's a city, so it's a bit of a weird one. But people will just yell at you. But we go, out in the sticks in France, and they're so rude. They're so rude. It's crazy. Like I always say, let's just get through France as quickly as possible. I like Spain. And so we go drive down to Spain to camp there. And obviously you have to stop off in France because you can't do it all in one go. And I just go, it can't be fun being French. They're just are they like that to each other? Do they save it for you English big dogs?
My favorite part about Spanish people is I remember I've got a few Spanish friends and I went to a few parties with them. And oftentimes they'll be in their groups of people who speak Spanish and you don't understand a word that they're saying. So they'll be like, oh, blah, 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 blah in Spanish. But it's always nice that one of them goes and says, hey, Jonathan, what we were saying was this. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You were translating for me.
Honestly, yeah, I love the Spanish. I love the Spanish. I want to live. I wanted to live in Spain. Nearly convinced the family to move there. So, I can do my quote unquote job from anywhere. It's been a long time since anyone wanted me in a physical location to do this. So, but yeah, my son is the one who ruined it. When we suggested, right, we'll stay here full time, he was like, "Well, but what about grandma? I won't see cousin. What's it?" And I'm like, "Ugh." So every
you
time
won't miss them. Yeah, no, that's
You'll forget.
Kids will ruin it.
I'll get you a new grandma. Jeez. And then every time it rains now, I look at my son. I go, This is you. This is your fault. This is your fault. We live in this country where the air hurts your face. We were walking the other day. I'm like, see how the air hurts our faces? That's right. We live somewhere where the air hurts our face, and it's your fault.
You could move to Finland, where in summer you can go clubbing and leave the club at 1 a.m. and it's still sunny. You could go to a place like that. That is interesting. I'd love to see what a place like that is. But in winter, it would be horrible there, I feel, with no sunlight.
Yeah, no, it's bad enough here in the UK. Where it's dark at about, just before 4 p.m. now. So you're have a bit of lunch, get to a task on your computer, look out the window, and it's suddenly dark. All right, cool.
But then, okay,
no. Go on, you carry on. I don't want to hear from you. That's all right.
No. Well, I was going to say,
free till
in
4.
our summer, the latest in Melbourne that we get sunlight is like 9 p.m., 9:15 p.m., like middle of January, the solstice. I want to know in the UK, does that mean you get sun till like 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. So, yeah,
That's wild.
the summers sort of feel like they go on forever. But yeah, and obviously that gets worse the further north you go. So the Scots have even more sunlight. Not that you'd know it. No, do you know what? I've already been at the French. I'm not picking a fight with the Scots.
Don't do that.
It's just that it's all the time. Oh, British bias. As if I would do anything to defend a Scotsman in sport. In war maybe. But if it was war between us and France, guess which side the Scots are on?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, guess which side they're on? They're straight across that channel going, let's have them. English. They do. Honestly, they hate us. So yeah, not British bias, English bias. I'd consult with Welsh people individually to see which side they want to join, but they're crossing the lines as well. Right. Spinny car. No, that. Oh, look at us. Here we go again. It's that GTA meme, isn't it? Of the guy walking down the alley. Here we go again. I'll hit record. You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. This is our review of the Las Vegas Grand Prix Take 2. Yes, we did record a few hours ago, and we were looking at this ticking clock of Chris Medland saying, any minute now, we're going to get a decision on this McLaren disqualification. It didn't come, but we did record the non-McLaren stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that incident, the disqualification of the McLarens, and its permutations for the championship. Then we're going to do our awards, and then I'll play out the rest of the podcast that we recorded at 7 o'clock this morning. We are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind permission of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. So the dramatic news that came out of Las Vegas shortly, but not shortly enough after the race for podcasting purposes, was that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have been disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix for a skid block plank wear type disqualification. I've got people on the panel who can describe technically what's wrong, but they are out. They're disqualified. Their points do not count. That means there's a double Mercedes podium now. And it also means that Max Verstappen is within 24 points of the championship title, the title lead. And it also means that Piastri is not penalised for finishing behind Lando Norris in this Grand Prix. The person who I was talking about who'll know the technicals is Matt Trumpets. Hello again, Matt.
Nothing better than a race so good you get to record the podcast twice.
Well, I've tried to cut down how much we're going to double up as much as possible. So it's really, really significant, this disqualification. It's like a historic decision in F1.
Yeah, I do sort of wonder if that's why it took them so long. Because essentially, of the 3 possible championship winners, they were tossing 2 of them out. And, you know, that maybe you give it a little more consideration than you normally would with, like, say, Russell at Spa last year.
Yeah, don't like that though.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, that's punishing consequences though, isn't it? Again, and yeah, we have heard that the reason it took so long is that they were really trying to find a way, like some kind of force majeure, some kind of technical reason.
McLaren had the excuse factory running full tilt. That's what it was.
They should have just hired whoever got the Aston Martin guys out of that pit stop penalty where they touched the car too soon. So yeah, they really did try and get that penalty overturned, and so. It looks bad. It looks bad. And I tweeted, you know how I tweet. I just tweet stuff. I just went double disqualification that puts Max back in the title race. Bit convenient, right? Because that's the first thing surely that came to everyone's mind. And that must be what the FIA were thinking when they did that DQ to suddenly go, oh, this is going to look bad. Speaking of looking great, though, we've got Jonathan Simon, Aussie TV reporter and TikTok star.
You saved yourself there, Spanish. I thought you were going to say, look bad.
I was going to go.
Well done. You are right, TikTok star. Give me a follow. That will be in the show notes. And when I say star, I mean
just started.
Nowhere near it. Yes, just started. Hey, what is it with Las Vegas and rolling the dice? Like McLaren with the plank didn't work out. I know it was unintentional. Us, this is our second take. We rolled the dice on the first take. Didn't work out. It's just something about Vegas that the house always wins.
So, I mean, we should just get straight into what happened then. So they've said, you know, they ran the car wrong. I saw that Lando Norris was saying on Saturday that there was a bit of porpoising. And I have a few questions. A, what on earth happened? There was a statement from Stella where he's basically said there was some car damage and some porpoising. We didn't do it on purpose. The FIA don't think we did it on purpose either. What is going on, Matt? And what could they possibly have said to try and get out of it?
There's really the only thing they could have said is exactly what they did say, which is the car was damaged in such a way that we're not responsible for the wear. In other words, the car
did it.
The car? Yeah. In other words, okay. So like there was some minor suspension damage. And so the car was sitting lower. But it was sitting lower not because we purposely put it there,
right?
But because, you know, we got hit, but that's almost nonsensical because any kind of damage you're going to do to the actual car is probably going to remove downforce, which means it's going to sit higher, not lower. The other thing you could say is like, oh, you know, there was a problem with tire pressures, but then you're under pressure on your tires. That's a problem. Realistically, the only thing you could say is like maybe the tires didn't heat up properly. So we didn't ever get to the operating pressures we expected, and that's what caused it. But that's still kind of a you problem, if you know what I mean.
The fact that it took them so long, though, it does show that they were probably weighing up the magnitude of this, because you've gone from, and in our original intro we were saying, well, it's just for Lando Norris to just walk it home. It's an open goal. He had to do so little to win the championship, and the chances of it even going to the finale in Abu Dhabi are low as well. But then this disqualification is the exact perfect thing to keep Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri in the title fight. So now Piastri, whatever the gap was, I think he lost maybe another 10 points to Lando Norris before the disqualification. Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah, something
roughly.
like that.
And now it sits at the same margin it was entering the Las Vegas weekend, 24 points. So
reset. And
there is. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, and then Verstappen now gets put within one DNF. So the FIA, the FIA have only got to do this one more time, and that puts Verstappen in the lead. But we said you was going to take something extraordinary to put those two back in the championship, and the roller coaster that the McLaren guys must have been going through from the checkered flag. Like Norris must have been going home, going, "Yeah, I can feel this now. I can feel it." And now suddenly it could go where one engine pop away from one of them being heartbroken.
Well, there was a rumor that they were already on a plane out of town when about the disqualifications, or at least boarding a plane, but they kind of had an inkling and knew about this at the racetrack. Obviously, it's not like it's just caught the McLaren drivers by surprise. It was being investigated for hours, like we said. Just going back to what Matt said about, suspension damage. I mean, that could be an excuse for Oscar Piastri for his contact with Liam Lawson. How about Lando Norris? I don't remember him making contact with anyone. If you remember watching the race too, there was a lot of times we would switch a view and watch Oscar Piastri on a straight. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but it seemed like his car was skidding across the ground a lot more than anyone else's. And there were a lot of sparks coming from Piastri's McLaren. And, you see that from time to time, so you don't think he's breaking any rules. But now that makes sense, looking back at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can always argue, hit a curb, got a piece of debris that caused this or that or the other to happen. But at the end of the day, and this is really something that very much comes out in the FIA statement. At the end of the day, there is absolutely no wiggle room. And there's absolutely there's no way for the stewards to show any kind of mercy. And I do think that it was, a lot of it was just crafting the statement about like, we completely believe them. This was unintentional. This wasn't like they were trying to cheat, but there's no room at all in the technical regulations for us to make an allowance for the total loss of Friday practice 2, which is normally where this data would have come from. The fact that the weather was completely different on the Saturday in qualifying and in FP3, and the fact that we understand that no team understands the bottom of their floor so well that you're not always at slight risk of some unanticipated thing happening. Like, okay, well, we ran it on Friday at exactly this height, at exactly these pressures, at exactly this fuel load. But now we've got porpoising that's twice the amplitude of what we experienced on Friday. And that was enough to just grind the back of the plank down, just that little 0.013 of a millimeter down or whatever. Yeah, like 0.13 of a millimeter. And that's it. Once it's 0.13, you're done.
But the entire top 10 was checked and only the McLarens were disqualified.
Which is why there's no room for mercy in that rule.
Yes, exactly. So for anyone who wants to know, that the thickness of this plank by rule starts at 10 millimeters. And I mean, it can be plus or minus 0.2, depending on the rule set, they allow a little bit of a difference, but you must finish with at least a minimum thickness of 9 millimeters. McLaren were found to be, what was it, Matt? Like 0.1 below 9?
It was like 8.887 was one of the measurements I remember from the article. It's like, we're not talking they were, it's not like they were at 6 millimeter or anything like that.
It wasn't like Ferrari at China, who were, I think, were they 5 millimeters at Ferrari? Jesus Christ, Ferrari.
I don't remember what they are. So before you go off yelling at Ferrari, we should probably check that number or check it at home. That'll be a good use of your Sunday. Go look up plank disqualification numbers.
Well, what I did do a little while ago was look at which cars get looked at for disqualification for these random checks. Yeah, these random scrutineering checks. And look, go on.
I was going to say, I don't think this is random. I think they saw from suspension measurements that in fact they needed to check the McLarens.
So the McLaren, they can monitor some of their ride height, right? They can monitor. They do get some warning if they're in danger of wearing these skids. So that explains them saying to Lando Norris to back off so much, I assume. So he was doing crazy amounts of lift and coast, and so that would be to reduce the vertical pressure at the end of the straights, right? So if you're lifting at the end of the straights, then there's less airflow going over the rear wing because you're not reaching that top speed, and that's the danger zone for plank wear. Right, okay. So interesting. So that's also a bit suspicious, isn't it? Why has that car dropped 20 seconds back? So I would like to know, are these checks random? Because I looked into it when Hamilton got his podium taken away in COTA a couple of years ago. And that, at the time, was the first time a podium car had that specific scrutineering check. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so looking here, there was 10 cars, the entire top 10. That's the first time the entire top 10 has been checked. I think there was 8 in a previous race, and there was none in a previous race. So the race director can just decide, and they can just go, or the scrutineer can just decide, okay, let's just do the top 3 today. Oh, let's not test anyone today. So there's a random element to it. However, I do wonder whether a team can kind of snitch. Can a team go, hey, wait a minute, that rear wing looks a little bit too loose?
Yeah.
So like 2021 Brazil, to me, absolutely, that was Red Bull making a fuss, and the FIA went and tested Hamilton's wing, and they found something with it. So whilst you can say, yes, it is cut and dry that they had an illegal flaw, therefore that you can't really argue anything other than disqualification, you can always, like Toby saying, like, oh, bring out the tinfoil hats. If you want to bring out a tinfoil hat, like, they do choose when and where to impose these things. Like, people down the grid could have had plank wear. You could do the entire grid and find that there's certain cars have had too much plank wear for the entire season. They've just never been picked. So there's the wiggle room for you conspiracy theorists out there.
Yeah, there is a random element, and they can also specifically check a car if they see signs that are troubling. But they could also, with just a laser scanner, just scan everybody's plank at every race and always check everyone. And they don't do that either. So
McLaren have the right to appeal, and they, as far as I'm aware, have not appealed and will not. And they apologized. They apologized to the drivers, because this could be a career-defining disqualification for at least Lando Norris at this stage.
Like, we're all sitting here going, oh, geez, how terrible for Norris, how terrible for Piastri. But look at the corner McLaren have boxed themselves into with being fair to both their drivers. What are they going to do now? Because let me tell you, it's really anyone's ball game at this point. And how are they going to be fair? What are they going to do if being fair to Norris means that both of them finish behind Max? That means one of the two of them is going to lose too many points to Max over the next 3 races, or 2 event weekends, if you will.
And thank you to Adrian Clark in the Patreon chat. 0.5 millimeters Ferrari were down at China. I'm sorry, Ferrari. I thought it was a complete 5 millimeters, which was a massive howler. That would have, I didn't believe the number when I thought somebody had told me that, so I got mixed up with the decimal. Matt, you mentioned the championship. Now, yeah, so it's Norris 390 points, 24 points now to Piastri and Verstappen. Piastri has, I need to double check this, but 7 wins from memory. Verstappen has 6 after Las Vegas. So that tiebreaker could come into play and be very crucial between them both. And the funny part about this is we're panicking, and spanners were saying, oh, you know what, Max Verstappen could win this title. He's got a new power unit and it's working wonders for him in that Red Bull. Lando Norris could also win this championship in Qatar next weekend. So things can easily swing Lando Norris's way. Yeah,
so he had a lot of wiggle room, and Matt did some good work with the points here, Matt. But yeah, before we get to rabble, and cursing his bad luck, he could always have afforded a DNF.
Yes. Yeah. And let's face it, this was going to always be by far their weakest track. I believe Norris finished 6th here last year. Piastri further back. Max finished, 3rd? But that's basically because he didn't bother to race Leclerc. This was always going to be a really good Red Bull track and the worst track on the calendar for McLaren. So in some ways, if you're Norris, you're like, well, at least we got it out of the way. At least the worst thing possible that could happen that statistically might have happened over these 4 race weekends, 3 race weekends. Well, the big bad things already happened. So from a probability point of view, I'm finishing the last races. All I got to do is just finish either behind Max or Piastri, whichever of the two is ahead. So for Norris, he's got the easiest path here by far.
When was the last time you guys have seen a team with such a dominant car? I'm not going to say butcher the Drivers' Championship because it hasn't been butchered yet, but it feels like
easy.
They are trying to throw this away. Was it McLaren 2007? That's the last one that comes to mind.
No, the Ferrari 2008.
Ferraris.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was going to go with 2017 with Vettel, no?
Oh, maybe. Maybe. Well,
yeah.
People argue about the 2017 one, but we fully did like the League of Justice, didn't we? And we were pretty convinced if you swapped drivers, that Ferrari wins.
Yeah, you need someone just a tiny bit more margin in that car, and he converts a couple of results and wins. The other one I would throw out there, 2012 McLaren.
Oh, with the engines.
That would have won that championship, and they had how many 20-second plus pit stops?
And they
stopping
had
by the side of the road. Unbelievable.
3 Hamilton DNFs to engine failures.
Yeah.
He crashed and others. Yeah, it's kind of similar to this year. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then got taken out by Hülkenberg when he was already out of it anyway. But you can add that. You can add that to the list, the Brazilian one. So you're right. It's if Verstappen does end up coming through and winning, I think it will be a historic fluff of a driver title, because the gap to the lead from Verstappen to Piastri was 109 points at one point. 109 points.
Oh my God.
I have a question, because we're going to have a hard thing to do here, which is, are we going to blame the driver or are we going to blame the team for it?
Oh, a lovely, healthy mix of the two, isn't it? Like it was a team effort. It will have been a team effort.
It took all of us to lose.
Yeah. So obviously both drivers have had their moments. You think, well, Lando Norris is in this position where he's still got a healthy lead. He would have taken this 7 races ago. If he said, right, you're going to go into the final 2 weekends with a 24-point lead over those two, go, yeah, I'll take that. Like, he definitely still would have taken it. And Verstappen now surely is looking at missed opportunities like Barcelona, where he gave up that 5th place. And you go, oh, that could be really, really critical. Imagine if that was the difference. What do you get? You get 10 points for P5? Imagine if he's 10 points short, he's going to really have to look back at that and go, oh well, I'll have to console myself with my other 4 titles. Yeah, thinking about it, he'll probably be okay. But yeah, you'd have to work really hard to lose a 109-point lead in a championship.
How is it 100? Like, that's unbelievable. 4 races behind. You both have kids. In 20 years' time, how will you explain this season to your kids? How would you actually explain it? Like, that makes no sense.
Well, still the far most likely outcome here is for Lando Norris to... So let's just go through some of the points. He's 24 points ahead. Mm-hmm. Essentially, if in Qatar, over the two days, the sprint and the race, he outscores both both Piastri and Verstappen, he's champion. Crowned champion in Qatar. Because all he's got to do is get it to 25. Yeah. And then does it go on countback, though? Because the wins are quite close, aren't they?
Well, he has... Let me double-check the wins. I'm pretty sure he has 9 wins from memory. I might be wrong with that.
Max has 6 wins. Norris and Piastri have 7 right now. And that's with 2 races left. And here, we get into a contentious point of debate in which our resident Formula One actual person told me it was dead simple. But I had the question. I'm like, well, do sprint races count? Can they count back? Because if they did when I did the research, then it was a lock for Lando, because he'd already won a sprint race, won 2 at that point, and Piastri had won none. But the language seems to imply that the sprint races don't count because they call them sprint sessions.
Okay.
And then they say when the countback is based on the race, holder of greatest number of first places in a race.
Yeah, it's not counted as a race. I'm fairly sure the sprint isn't counted as a race.
Not.
If they'd just said Grand Prix
Yeah.
wins, that would have cleared it all up.
Or a race session, or, I mean, they could have been more clear about it. But it does leave a tiny little loophole for someone who's tied to try and drive a Mack truck through.
This isn't going to be another all cars or any cars situation, surely. So, yeah, so any of those three drivers could win the next two Grand Prix and be leading on the countback. But I think that will only come into play if it's Norris, because I think Norris can win just by coming in third every single start, can't he? 15, 15, 15. Oh, we shouldn't be doing maths on the fly. What we playing at? But
no, wait. It would be 6
10,
point
20.
sprint, 16, no, 6, 15, 15. Wait, how much is that?
36.
That's 36.
Yeah.
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 That should be.
There's a sprint in two races. That's 10 points a race if he's third to whoever's ahead.
Yeah.
And then that's only minus 2 points for finishing third in the sprint. So that's where you fall down. Whoever wins it, if it's not Norris, has to average 8 per time on track with points on offer, which is 1 sprint and 2 full races. So he'd need to finish 4 places behind, and the other person would need to win.
So who can outpace Norris? So Verstappen's won.
Yeah.
Piastri, obviously, we theoretically in the same car, although he hasn't been doing it.
Yep.
George Russell's been very quick, almost beat Lando Norris today. And then what? I mean, are we counting Antonelli? Maybe the Ferraris, these final 2 races. I have a theory the Ferraris are trying to lose as many races as possible to get wind tunnel time for next year. Anyway, so finishing third is kind of realistic.
Yep.
It's more so, is Norris going to have a wheel-to-wheel battle with Max Verstappen and collide, and now Oscar Piastri is the one who gets the advantage from this because they both crash out of the race. If I'm Lando Norris, I say, Max, go ahead, go win the race. I'll finish second to you. That's okay with me.
At the moment, it doesn't look like Piastri's a threat. So we were talking about if Norris DNFs, does that make a difference to the championship? Is Piastri back in it? But remember, he crossed the line 5th, got 4th because of Antonelli, just didn't look in contention throughout qualifying, hasn't looked like troubling Norris for the previous 3 races before that, 3 5th places. So it would be really speculative to go, right, he's suddenly going to turn up in the last 2 races and beat Norris. He looks like he's nowhere near that. If Norris finishes ahead of Piastri in Qatar, which seems likely, Piastri's mathematically out by Dubai and by Abu Dhabi. Does that mean the team orders kick in then? Is Piastri asked to help Lando Norris then, and would he? Come on, Australia. What do you think?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Like, what would you do there? Do you play nice guy, even though you're not in contention for the championship in Abu Dhabi? I don't think you can. I think you try and do as much as possible to put yourself in a scenario where you don't have to play Sergio Perez 2021, And how about Yuki Tsunoda? Can he play a factor in this somehow? I know that people are probably laughing listening to that going, Jono, come on, please. Yuki Tsunoda in the second Red Bull, which is no longer an equal car to Verstappen's.
No, he was nowhere.
I don't think you can, Matt. I don't think you can if you're Oscar Piastri. Mentally, you don't want to give up that game and help your teammate win.
Well, you don't want to, but if you put yourself out of contention, it's kind of your job. I do plenty of things I don't want to, but it's because I'm getting paid, and they're getting paid a lot of money to do that thing. What occurs to me about Qatar, though, is we have this lap limit on the tires. Don't believe it's the easiest place to pass. So I think of the 2 races, Qatar is the one where we could really see Qatar is the danger point because of qualifying. A bad qualifying could absolutely wreck you. And even if you don't have a good start, and let's say Russell or someone gets ahead, or Leclerc gets ahead of you for that 10 or 12 laps and just detaches you from your 2 rivals at the front, it may not be something you can recover from.
And Spanners, how would you feel what's better for Oscar Piastri's career? If Max Verstappen wins this year's World Championship or Lando Norris does?
Oh, no, definitely.
I think
I was just had that thought of if he gets beaten by his teammate, it's like, yeah, I think it looks worse if you blow a 109-point lead to Max Verstappen, who also got himself a 10-second penalty for deliberately crashing into George Russell and was also wiped out of the out of Austrian Grand Prix by Antonelli. If you manage to lose to that, I think that historically hurts. But hey, look, this is a race review, and we did do like a chunk of race review content that I'm going to play out. But before we say goodbye to Matt and Jono, we're actually going to take an early visit to the podium. The Las Vegas Grand Prix has put itself in a unique position on the F1 calendar, offering something different for sure. A lack of traction, a lack of sunshine, a big glowing ball, a lot of Americanness. I'm not going to say too much Americanness, but certainly a lot of Americanness for my tired British eyes at 5:30 a.m. There was a giant mouse, there was a fountain, a big giant glowing ball. It was as American as you could want, and I do like the way America goes about things. America, you go out and you have fun on purpose. It's just a little bit alarming sometimes. And then you have Terry Crews driving them in a Lego car with pink sunglasses. And why not do something different? Why not allow yourself to have fun? But from a racing point of view, it definitely, to my mind, still the least bad street circuit in Formula One. So we're going to do our awards now, but I will start with the negative one.
No, you missed the Apex.
So that we can end on a positive one. Jonathan Simon, you're on TikTok. You're starting to do more TikToks. Where can people find you?
At JohnnyS8 in the show notes. Have a listen, whether you're on Spotify or YouTube. Go into the show notes. Give us a follow on TikTok, Instagram, X, you name it. Check out my website as well. Now, who missed the Apex for me this weekend in Vegas? I'm going to flick back to qualifying, and I watched some analysis of Charles Leclerc running off in Q3. Now, I keep saying Charles Leclerc. Is it Charles Leclerc or Charles Leclerc? Let's just, what?
Either or. Yeah. He responds to both.
If if I was working in Italy and they were calling me Riccardo, I wouldn't care. That would be fine. It's fine. That sounds lovely. Isn't it?
Okay. I'm going to start calling you Riccardo from now on to have some fun with that. No. I watched Isaac Hadjar not slow down for yellow flags in qualifying when Oscar Piastri did. Now, it both cost them their Q3 time. That's not the point here. The point is that, to me, was extremely unsafe. Now, I'm not having a go at Isaac Hadjar here. I'm just having a go at how that wasn't a penalty. For Charles Leclerc running off the track, now Oscar Piastri's done the right thing. He slowed down in yellow flag conditions. Right behind him, Isaac Hadjar has gone, now I'm not going to say full speed. I haven't actually looked at the traces of throttle and brake and all that kind of stuff, but it seemed like he almost ran into the back of Piastri, could have caused an incident in a yellow flag zone. And Spanners, it wasn't the only issue we had in a yellow flag section this weekend. And I think the sport, if you're serious about it, why are we having so many close calls? Can we stop with these close calls where people's lives, now I know that's a bit dramatic to say that, but it is true. People's lives are at danger.
So the yellow flags as a concept or not being enforced missed the apex for you?
Well, I would say penalties not being handed out to Hadjar and the marshals in the race running out with double waved yellows. Like, why did we not see a VSC for that? Anyway.
I think we do mention in the pre-recorded bit, but I thought you were going to say the marshals being out on track when they were under full racing conditions because they killed the virtual safety car a little early. And that on top of the recent one with Lawson in Mexico as well, with marshals out on the track. It's starting to get a little dicey for marshals. So hopefully that gets looked into. Hey, Matt.
Lawson's fault.
Hey there. I was just going to chuck into the conversation that I believe the yellow got withdrawn before Hadjar got to the end of the sector, and his race engineer informed him the turn where the incident occurred. So for Piastri, it was yellows. But I think for Hadjar, it was withdrawn, so therefore he didn't need to slow down in the same way Piastri did. But he did wind up, you're right, going offline and almost taking out both him and Piastri right there.
Excellent. Matt, You're at MattPT55 nearly everywhere on all social media. Who missed the Apex for you?
It's interesting to me because there's such a large number of very obvious choices, but they're all kind of team based.
This is what Matt does when I catch him by surprise and he hasn't thought of it.
No, I'm like, if I answer the thing that I really want to say, I'm like, I'm taking Spanner's choice away from
go
him.
for it.
McLaren, obviously. I mean, come on. They got the car wrong and they cost their drivers an easy cruise to first and second in the Drivers' Championship. And they put themselves and their drivers under a tremendous amount of stress for the remaining. Yeah, no, I mean, there is no bigger apex to miss than, oops, we set the car up illegally. Sorry about that.
Wait, though. Okay, so I've got sympathy for that because, for your argument, because Norris said, oh, it's porpoising. So that should have sort of highlighted something. What should they have done then? With that information, what should they have done?
Well, as has been carefully pointed out by Jono earlier in our little segment here, no other team had this problem. They should have left more margin because they should have realized that neither driver needed to win this race. I think this is a McLaren ego thing. Like, oh, we want to show that we've come back and we're stronger. How, where do we have to run it? Let's get as close as we can to that. When they should have said, oh, what's the least either of our drivers needs to achieve at this race to make sure Verstappen doesn't have a chance, and use that as their measure, because you're trying to win a championship. You're not trying to win a race at this point.
How long does it take to check plank wear? Do you know? Does anyone have an insight into it? Because
not long at all.
Yeah, or just make it.
They got a micrometer, jam it down there, measure. They measure the holes, and they write the thing down on the sheet, and they show the sheet to the competitor, and the competitor goes, "Oh crap!"
Yeah,
get the lawyers, and then we wind up with 90 minutes of just waffling along to anyone crazy enough to be up at that hour in the morning.
So you said to me that this won't be an issue next year.
No.
So that issue's gone now. So we've only got to put up with this for 2 more races.
I mean, it could always be an issue, but it would be a much bigger mess up because the amount of downforce you're making from under the floor is going to be less in proportion to total downforce than it is right now. Right now, this is the most critical thing to get as close to legal as possible without going over that line. Will not be so next season.
Chat says that you have to take the whole plank off, and it takes a long time. Still, though, I think for what's at stake for the rest of the season, maybe they just do a blanket. We're just going to check all the point scorers, or at least those 3, isn't it? Let's just at least check the championship contenders for something so critical. It's a random check. And if it was something like, a grid penalty, then you go, okay, well, if it's a grid penalty, yeah, a little bit of a random element, that's a deterrent. But since it's a complete disqualification, you go, maybe that is something that you just do either across the board or not at all. That's interesting. So my missed Apex award is going to go to Bortoletto. And it wasn't going to. On the onboard, it just looked a little bit ambitious. So it looks like, yeah, you've overtaken 1. Oh, maybe I can get another. Oh, I'm going to chance it. I'm just going to try my luck. And then it's, goes too far. But when you see it from the onboard of other cars around, he looks like this rocket ship flying through and just clattering everyone out. And of course, he's lost all his moral high ground to Lance Stroll there. So I'm going to say, Bortoletto, you missed the apex for me. Now we get to do the Good Thing Award. All right, Jono, let's end on a positive one then for you. Who hit the apex for you?
Nobody. When I say nobody, maybe I'll take that back. Not many people like shenanigans of US Formula One races, whether it's celebrities on the grid or all this kind of, jumble that happens during a race weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed the pink Cadillac, Lego pink Cadillac, whatever it was, the 1950s Lego Cadillac they had. Hey, here's Lego, everybody. Lego, Lego, Lego. Anyway, that was awesome. Having Terry Crews drive the drivers to the celebrations. I remember a couple of years ago, this is the first time we saw this. We had the drivers step into a car, and it was just took them forever to get to the podium celebrations. We were all wondering, like, what's going on here? What's this about? they made it fun today. You know, Terry Crews recreating his famous Mean Girls scene where he's singing that song, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called.
The film is White Chicks.
White Chicks. What did I say? Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. White Chicks. I'm getting my movies mixed up. It is almost 1 a.m. here. This is what 7 hours of podcasting.
I know my early 2000s comedy, but yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and you know, it was something cool. It was a good integration of a celebrity who I truly think really loves Formula One, and Terry Crews is a great guy, and he hit the apex for me, being involved in all that kind of stuff.
Matt Trumpets, who hit the apex for you?
Well, there are many choices, but only one winner, and I'm going to give it to Carlos Sainz for qualifying third.
Yes. And
in a brand new car and a brand new team.
And even being disappointed in his third place. Oh, I thought I had pole. You've got literally third, bro.
I know, but that's what it takes. That's why Williams brought him along, because he has, again, I know everyone just like, oh, he's not a Leclerc. But I tell you, low key, he's a very, very, very impressive driver. And so it was just sort of that. And then just the way he played the crowd. This is, I don't know why I'm so popular. Runs hand through hair. People seem to love Williams. Smiles like a golden retriever. You're like, he knows what he's up to. He's very smart.
If Matt was running Cadillac Formula One team, can I guess, Matt, who you would be signing as your lineup? It would be Carlos Sainz, Esteban Ocon. Or am I wrong?
That wouldn't be bad. Signs I would take.
Knew it.
Yeah,
I
sure.
knew it. Yes.
Thank you very much, guys. So I'm going to unceremoniously hang up on my panel, and we're going to go through what we recorded earlier, where we go through everything from Mercedes, Antonelli's performance, the problems at Ferrari, what Verstappen had in order to be able to rocket up to the front, and also like the turn one incidents and stuff. So we're going to do all of that now, but please go and follow my panel, Jonathan Simon and Matt Trumpets. I'll pop back in, but for now, I'm going to run a pre-rec. Okay, please work, please work, please work. We'll buy ourselves a little bit of time by talking about that start. And so we have criticised Lando Norris in the past for being a little bit too conservative on the start. I did do a Spanners non-canon qualifying review this morning. So if you want to listen to Sleepy Spanners or watch, then go and search for our sprint review. I had to turn the lights down in the studio because that's how bad my eyes look. And they don't look great now. I definitely look tired. So, you know, Lando Norris, he's got himself at that pole position. It was a monster lap, even with the losing of the rear a little bit at the end. Managed to get pole. Piastri definitely a little bit unlucky not to get a final crack with that Leclerc yellow flag. But at the start, we criticised him for being a little bit passive and maybe just a little bit too high on the reward versus risk side of things.
There he goes. Bye, Max. It was just like that thing where he was so excited he forgot to do the next thing.
And so, Verstappen obviously can take. I thank you. I thought that setting I'd done had just messed it up. So I'll just go back a little bit. Here we go. That should all be
losing
back.
of the rear a little bit at the end. Managed to get pole. Piastri definitely a little bit unlucky not to get a final crack with that Leclerc yellow flag. But at the start, we criticised him for being a little bit passive and maybe just a little bit too high on the reward versus risk side of things. Really goes over and aggressively cuts off Max Verstappen. You think, oh, thank goodness, baring some teeth. This is how we want you to race. And then instantly seconds later, no, not like that. Stay on track, lads. Stay on track.
I'm sorry, I'm going to bring in a musical analogy, but if you've ever been performing, you've got this one thing you can't do, and you can't do it, and you finally get it. You're like, yes. And then you immediately miss the next thing because you're so excited. And I think that's what Lando is like, I'm going to get Max. I got Max. Oh, right. I have to break too. Doggone it. There he goes. Bye, Max. It's just like that thing where he was so excited he forgot to do the next thing.
And so, Verstappen obviously can take advantage of that. Russell can take advantage of that. But the way things are looking overall, with the amount of fuel saving Norris had to do at the end, I think we've got to look at Verstappen's performance and say, look, he maximized the performance in qualifying in the wet, in those slippery conditions. And then in the race, they've been absolutely dominant here. I don't think, even if he hadn't got the lead, it looked like he was going to chew Norris up towards the end anyway. But let's not forget, he now benefits from this brand new engine that they got at the last Grand Prix. And so, Matt, I don't know if you can put a figure on how much they're benefiting from that. But it didn't clock with me. People are accusing McLaren of whinging about this engine, but it didn't clock with me that actually a new engine should fall outside of the cost cap. But they claimed that it was, well, it's for reliability reasons. So yes, you take the grid penalty or start from the pit lane, but it falls outside of the cost cap. But it obviously wasn't for reliability. Obviously, they just chose to do that for performance. So, but that advantage is now baked in for the rest of the season. And it looks like he's just got a free win as well.
Yeah. I mean, there are various measurements of it, and everyone's gotten much better about losing less power across the season. Mercedes was particularly bad, but they've gotten much better. And, we saw Lewis do it in Brazil in 21, I believe. They put the magic engine in and just ran it. So it can be a significant boost in horsepower. It could be like, 5%, maybe 10%, depending upon how old the engine is you're comparing it to. But what is interesting here is Tom Bosses basically says, well, in the cost cap, if you break your engine, then if you smash it in an accident, then it is a cost cap thing. But if you're saying it's for reliability, if we say it's for performance, then we have to have this argument. And frankly, we don't have the resources or the knowledge to have this argument. So we're just going to, whatever, fine. You do you, and that's fine.
And they did the same to Yuki Tsunoda this race. Knew everything. Here you go. Oh, no doubt it won't count to the cost cap. John Smith in engineering found out that there was one line that was off for reliability reasons. No, it shouldn't count to the cost cap. So I don't know. We'll see what we'll see how this decides the title now, because
we're all in a bit of shock here, aren't we?
we are, because if he does, looking into the final couple of races, we got Qatar next week, and that includes a sprint. So there's points on offer on the Saturday as well. And then you've got Abu Dhabi, obviously the final race. That's just one Grand Prix. Now, just to clarify the points, now I've done the math. It will be 24 points between Norris and Verstappen if the McLarens are disqualified, and Piastri and Verstappen will be tied on points heading into these final couple of races. So he's still got work to do. Does Max Verstappen, today, if you think about it, all Norris did was finish second to Verstappen. That's enough to win the title if he can do it.
I'm really trying to stay away from the championship maths here until we get confirmation.
Until we get a confirmation, yeah.
There's 2 sets of championship maths to do, and people listening to this will know the result of the DQs. So let's start with that turn one then, because there was quite a lot going on in the background. That we had, I think we had Albon hitting, who did he hit? Albon hit Ocon. We had Bortoletto hitting Stroll, and we had Piastri hitting Lawson. So if you look at...
Other way around, Spanners. Can we just phrase that properly?
Piastri turned in. As we now know, as Matt argued, if you have any part of your car alongside, then the outside car just has to wait until the inside car decides to turn. So Piastri turned in on Lawson, causing the crash.
Wow. Do we want to start with this one? Out of control was Lawson. And I went through the racing guidelines. Now, this took me some time after the race because there's a lot to remember as a Formula One driver in a wheel-to-wheel battle. Now, Lawson broke far too late, and realistically, I would say he made the corner, but he didn't take the line that he should have. He went and almost T-boned Piastri. Now, in Brazil, the same thing happened. Do you just want Oscar Piastri to disappear and not exist anymore? I mean, come on. That's a little bit unfair. Oscar Piastri gave him 2-3 car lengths on the inside, or car widths, and Lawson didn't use them. And unfortunately, obviously, the lockup coming into the corner for Liam Lawson didn't help. I don't know. You guys are going to keep arguing against this, but that's an unfair decision not to penalize Liam Lawson.
Oh, we're going to take this seriously. Okay. Sure. Fine.
Yes.
So the thing with Lawson, I will disagree with you, having watched a replay, about his braking, because you could see him downshifting well before the corner. But what happened was Russell and Sainz were fighting, and Russell came over right in front of him, and Russell locked up. And I think he was anticipating being able to carry more speed into the corner until Russell locked up and slowed a lot in front of him. And I think he just panic locked the brakes. And the difference from the penalty Piastri got is clearly Lawson has both front wheels locked, and you can see him turn his wheel fully to the left and just continue going to the right across the track. And it's just an absolute miracle that he didn't hit Russell. And he managed to hit Piastri in such a way that it didn't really do any damage to the car. Like, it was just wheel to wheel. If it's going to happen, that's the best way it's going to happen. But I also begin to wonder, like, did the drivers just have like a little bet going amongst themselves? Can we all tag Piastri before the end of the season?
Yeah, it seems that way. And the worst part about this too is you mentioned like Lawson, okay, he anticipated that he could carry more speed into the corner. How about be more cautious on lap 1, turn 1? Now, if he was a little bit more cautious, now I know you're racing and you're wearing your heart in your sleeve and you're battling in a war, you know, it's a race. You can't just be cautious everywhere. How about take a bit more care into the first corner and not lock up in case there's an incident where George Russell had to back off or he had issues carrying speed, and then you wouldn't have made contact with Oscar Piastri. You know, this is, to me, Oscar has given so much space, and he's had a driver with no care in the world, absolutely borderline. You could argue it looks almost like a T-bone. Like, I mean, what do you want Oscar to do? Not turn in? He's got to turn into the corner.
So we've got the Australian calling for the New Zealanders' blood. Yeah. So I think he is lucky to get away with that without a penalty there. Like I said, they're normally very lenient on lap 1. They tend to punish based on consequences, and it's a wheel-to-wheel bang. He loses a place, and I do think it's Russell locking up in front that probably is the reason he gets away without a penalty. So there's a couple of other incidents there. I think the Albon one was much of a muchness, but the Bortoletto on Stroll was absolutely crazy. So he's lost all moral high ground now from being hit by Stroll in the last race.
And you talk about lack of care into turn 1. I mean, Bortoletto was the epitome of that. Like, I was watching his start on board, and I'm like, oh, this is looking good so far. Oh, off the inside, he's going to make up some spots here. And I said, oh, wait a second. The only reason he's made up spots is you're supposed to brake, and he didn't. And he took out, was it Stroll, who then took out Gasly. Now, the funniest part about this is Antonelli, who had a great race, was on the outside and had to slow down and couldn't make up the positions that Lewis Hamilton did, who went up the inside and managed to pass all these cars and gain so many spots. He was like 13th at the end of the first lap. So Bortoletto, wow. I mean, bowling Leto really is the best way. Is that a bit of an insult? I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, it's all good.
I mean, there's not really much to add. It's classic open lobby shenanigans on that one, with the only defense. And I was just thinking about this as far as Norris goes too. Sometimes when you find yourself on a weird part of the track, you can't see your braking points anymore. Like, you have no idea. You're like, oh, I'm over here. I wonder where I should brake. Oh, I guess it should have been back there, is probably what went through his head as he dejectedly wandered back to his paddock to get yelled at by Briatore, or by who's your manager? No, it was
Jonathan Wheatley.
Yeah. No, Wheatley would probably be very kind to him. Yeah.
Can you imagine as well? Like, I mean, this is one of the shortest runs to turn 1 of the season, so he probably got caught out by that. It's like, oh, we just started the race. Oh, I'm already braking for the first corner. So there's a little bit of that going, you know, or getting involved in this situation. Now he gets a 5-place grid penalty for the next race, next weekend at Qatar. 10-second penalty is what the steward said they would have given him had he continued. Now, I have this philosophy where I say, why not just drive out there on the racetrack if you could with broken steering, 3 seconds a lap slower, and just wait until you cop the penalty, take it, and then go, oh, unfortunately, we thought the car could work. It doesn't anymore. Let's retire. I would have just done that.
Okay, so we are keeping a watching brief. Medlin saying there's in a few minutes' time they're going to have a meeting, and it's usually a pretty quick decision for these. I'm debating now whether I'm going to put at the beginning of the show, skip to X time if you want to hear our reaction to the disqualification. So I think we've done Verstappen really, and we've done the start, but if we go away from the championship fight, I think one of the highlights of this race was Antonelli's performance. So you look at what was going on in qualifying, and you go, wow, okay, the resurgence is off for now. I think it's quite worrying if we look at Mercedes. It's quite worrying for Russell with Antonelli putting in two really good, strong race pace performances and seeing a bit of a difference between the preservation and the wear, and seeing Antonelli do really well and be fast on those old tyres, whereas it looked like, and I don't know if Matt will agree with this, Toto Wolff said something along the lines of he didn't go fast enough because he couldn't activate the tyres, but it looked like he did a classic thing of trying to hunt down Max, getting in that dirty air, chewing up the tyres a little bit, having to pit early. Is that what happened, Matt? Because this is what we were talking about when he was teamed up with Hamilton, and we haven't been able to see the evidence of it with Antonelli being off pace. But suddenly Antonelli's woken up, and you go, "Oh, is that a thing again?"
Kind of. Like at this race, if you ran into tire trouble, and it was mainly you had some graining that happened later on in the life of the tire, and it cleared itself. Well, I think what happened with Russell is he really did. The graining happens when you push the tires very hard early in the race, and that is what he did. He essentially said, let's go for it. If we can give Max a hard time or push him on his tires enough, then maybe we can make this race interesting. But then also in the race, and I think this is why you saw the pace differential later on, he had some kind of a steering issue.
Yeah.
Where his power steering was essentially kind of freezing mid-corner. And it sort of limited what he was capable of doing, which is why you had that funny message about, I'm not sure how much risk I should really take trying to fight Lando here, because if my steering just gives out entirely, I've taken out myself and the championship contender. But if I just let him by, then I can still get a podium. So I think that's where I think they were very much managing issues with Russell in the race today.
And I think that might have been the case in the last Grand Prix as well, that he had some kind of issue to manage. So we'll put a pin in that one for now, especially as I don't want Maria to get too angry with us in the live chat.
Too late.
Too late, it's gone. So yeah, we'll put a pin in that one. I think that is one to watch. And I think I'm far more excited about that team battle than I was, because it really did look like Antonelli was dropping off a cliff. But at least now you've got, if Russell has having some kind of issue, you've got a Mercedes that's performing and going well. So, but he definitely looked like one of the better performers on the hards. But a broad question I want to ask you, Matt, is what was the strategy here? So we saw the early hard runners looking good, and then, like, for example, Hamilton just disappeared on the medium. So, and Hadjar was saying, be aggressive. I don't think this is the kind of tyre strategy we want, is it? Where we go, right, just, you've got the medium for a little bit, but we really want to get onto that hard. So just get off the medium as quickly as you can and get onto the hard.
So there was effectively only a tire life difference between the medium and the hard in terms of performance. The hard was every bit as fast, and it was far more durable, and it was probably nicer to warm up, easier and less finicky about how you brought it up to temperature. And so in terms of strategies, the original strategy was the one-stop medium hard pitting in the mid to late 20s. And you did see people pit a lot earlier than that. And you saw that the undercut was powerful if your car was capable of it. And this is the thing about Antonelli, because he actually pitted in the virtual safety car on lap 2. And he just never, ever, ever, ever pitted again. And he was only like less than half a second off Verstappen's pace. And Verstappen was really putting in the laps to keep ahead of Norris. So it's not like he was just sitting on his laurels at that point.
That threw a lot of people off. It was the WTF strategy. Like when I watched him ditch the softs at the start of the race for during the virtual safety car, I thought, well, what are Mercedes doing? Like, you don't even want to maximize some of the grip from that. And then at the end of the race, I go, oh, it's because the hards lasted twice as long as people thought they would. So I have no idea how Antonelli pulled that off, and neither did Lewis Hamilton. On the radio post race, I heard on board Lewis was questioning his engineer, going, "Wait, how have they gotten ahead of us? We were racing with them; they were behind us at the start." So even he was confused by it.
Yeah, no, it was just the undercut worked, and it also gave him a lot more clean air along the way, which meant that the tires lasted better as well. So it's just a combination of these things. Some of them are luck, but a lot of them are strategic. And for Mercedes, like worst case, you put Antonelli on a 2-stop and look at the tires lasted, and he was brilliant on them. So, well done.
Not to forget strategy, just for 2 seconds, did you agree with his jump start? Did you watch the analysis of that post-race?
Yeah, so apparently the rules have changed then. So it's any tiny fraction of movement at all.
Yeah.
And that results in a jump start. So it does count as a mistake. That does count as an error. And it's just one of those things. Now everyone's got to be on the lookout and be like, no, you have to sit there with the handbrake on and maybe just even in neutral, and then first gear, off you go.
Well, for anyone who thinks he didn't gain an advantage, next time you're at a traffic light and it's a red light, and you watch the perpendicular lights, right, going the other way, well, as soon as they go red, creep a little bit and then go when it goes green, and you'll see the advantage you get on the car next to you. Now, Antonelli, the ironic thing about this is, I mentioned this before, he was on the outside at T1 and didn't really gain an advantage at the end of it. And if anything, he kind of looked like he got off to a poor start off his grid box. So that was as unlucky as it got with the penalty. But I guess it all kind of worked out in the end, because he still finished ahead of Leclerc with the 5 seconds, didn't have to take it in a pit stop. We all know a 5-second penalty in a pit stop's like 6.3 with human error. Like it's not actually 5 seconds by the time somebody counts it and presses play and pause and that kind of stuff. And it's good for Ferrari, because I have a conspiracy theory that Ferrari is tanking this Constructors' Championship so they can get more wind tunnel time for next year, because money doesn't matter to them. So of course, it's good for them, to finish behind.
So that strategy with Antonelli, there was some suggestion, is he holding up Piastri and Leclerc behind to help out George Russell? And that could be like a legitimate team thing. I didn't hear anything over the radio, but as soon as he decided to try and break a gap, he was able to do so by a lot, and Piastri wasn't able to keep pace. So we now know that there's possibly issues with the McLaren, and perhaps they were fuel saving or lifting and coasting to fuel save. And in fact, we did see some analysis of the amount of lifting and coasting that Norris was having to do. It was a huge amount. And that probably does make sense if they suddenly were a little bit nervous of the plank. But yeah, Antonelli looked ominous in that stint. So issues aside for Russell, it did kind of look like, oh, wow, he could have done that at any time, meaning he probably was holding up Piastri to some extent.
He absolutely was. I went because we happen to know some Australians. One of them made a very big deal, and I went and looked at the race trace, and you can absolutely see Antonelli's line coming down and just pushing Piastri away from Russell for like about 10 laps. And then he just lifts and leaves him behind. And I don't know what happened to Leclerc. I think he had some car issues, because 3 or 4 laps from the end, they were like seconds apart. And then I'm just looking at the end results and like, yeah, man, he managed to lose that 5-second gap. Incredible.
Well, it felt like the more the stint went on, the Ferrari got slower and slower. If anything as well, when Lewis Hamilton jumped on the mediums midway through the race and then Hülkenberg pitted, it was like he'd lost 3-4 seconds in that phase, couldn't switch the mediums on, and then had no pace and finished behind Hülkenberg. What was going on with the Ferrari in this situation? Now, I don't know, looking at this plank wear issue, I'm not going to come up with random roll the dice assumptions that are probably going to be wrong, but were they running the car high and that's why Ferrari were slow and McLaren were quick because they ran the car low and they shouldn't have? It's like China all over again. So I don't know, like it was a car that had no pace. But like I said, Matt, why would you complain about giving up useless positions towards this stage of the season? Ferrari would be more than happy to finish 4th. More wind tunnel time. You've got massive regulation change heading into next year. I don't want to give up wind tunnel time with a car I want to develop. Ferrari finished last every race. I'm more than happy to see that happen if it means they have a better car next year.
I mean, that is some coping strategy there, isn't it? No. Not horrendously terrible. They're tanking deliberately. Honest. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they are.
I mean, Ferrari's the next place to go. So obviously with Hamilton, I was a bit surprised that there wasn't even a suggestion of taking a new engine and doing a Red Bull. I think surely if Red Bull were able to claim a reliability issue, that was a no-brainer for Ferrari to do that and do a pit lane start. And then you've got an advantage for the last 2 races of the season as well. So yeah, that backs up Jono's tanking theory. But why didn't they do that? I don't know. Honestly, it just feels like Hamilton's getting no support. I was fuming this morning about the qualifying. I think I was a bit more measured when I did the sprint review thing. But honestly, just the no information that he got and the am I safe? No, push. Well, it's too late. The fact, here's what I didn't say in the sprint reaction. The fact that he tells him to push means that he wasn't even watching, that he'd already given up on that lap. It's like, what is going on with that pit wall?
I really don't know. I don't know why they didn't put a new power unit in. You'd think that was the case. And the chat is reporting that he had brake issues in this race. That's why he sort of like he hit that point and then he couldn't make any further progress because he was, and he that was an issue for him too. I think he had brake glazing. He was so slow, his brakes glazed, and he's not liking the Ferrari brakes compared to the Mercedes brakes. And hopefully that's something they get sorted out next season.
Here's why Verstappen's one of my favorite drivers, because if you're a Verstappen fan, do you really think you'd be frustrated at the end of Q1? No. Max would have been pushing, the team would have fed him the right information, and he would have made it. He wouldn't have been eliminated. In this situation, why is Lewis and Ferrari not doing the right thing? And this is a constant thing that's happening, and they need to figure it out. You know, post-race, it was dejecting Matt to hear Hamilton say, no matter how much I try, it keeps getting worse. He wore his heart on his sleeve again. He looks as sad as ever, even though he looks like he finished 10th. Take that back, finished 8th, because I think the McLaren's about to get disqualified. Right. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Like to me, there's something fundamentally wrong with that team. And it's the same topic over and over again that we talk about each and every podcast. Fix it, Ferrari.
This really reminds me of late Williams before it got sold in terms of there just seems to be some kind of intractable issue behind the scenes that just keeps the team from being as nimble as it needs to be in these situations. Like with the Hamilton thing, because weirdly I had all day to read about what happened between qualifying and the race. The timing line is behind the start line. So you cross the timing line and he looked up before the start line and saw the red lights, meaning the session was over. But because he crossed the timing line, he actually could have gone on to do another lap. He didn't know that. And the engineers, his race engineers, performance engineer, didn't get on the horn and say, oh, by the way, you've got one more lap coming, so keep it rolling because we're at risk. Yeah.
Now, I heard that the engineers did warn him, but like 2 minutes prior, it's going to be close. We don't know yet, like they gave him that kind of pre-assumption, but you should know as a Formula One driver, like it hasn't changed in Lewis's career that the finish line's different to the start, or the timing line, which is the finish line's different to the start line. Like, I don't think that's an issue. Like, I just don't understand a simple howler like that can't be happening. Like, just push until you're told no. You should know that your whole career, and it's sad to see this because this is Lewis Hamilton who is like, I'm going to take recency bias away from it. If you've started watching Formula One the last 2-3 years, you're going to think Lewis Hamilton's one of the worst drivers ever. But he's honestly one of the best drivers we've ever seen in this sport. And so we would like to see him back to that level of quality because that is the Lewis we all remember. And that's more of a fun Hamilton to have in the sport.
They'll get there. I think the upcoming aerodynamic regulations will make him a lot happier.
Yeah.
Or we try to, you could also face the reality that it has been quite a bit of time now since we've seen him string together a string of like good results. I mean, if you look at maybe 23, he did have that European glow up a little bit where, was it last season actually? He did win
last season.
Silverstone, didn't he? So yeah, maybe I think it is a little bit of recency bias, and there are mitigating factors that us Hamilton fans can point to all the time. He was doing experiments. He's doing that. He's getting used to the car. there's going to come a point where we've completely exhausted the excuses. And even now, you go, oh, he's having a brake issue, was he? Well, there seems to be some kind of issue every week, and there's some issue. And case by case, I look at it and I go, I can't put too much of the qualifying on him because he should have someone in his ear communicating. But then at the end of the day, he should know that he's crossed the line, that he's finished the lap, that the checkered flag isn't down, and that he's got a lap. So I feel like I'm running out of excuses as a Hamilton fan, and it seems like we're having to use them way too often.
And this happened with Vettel fans towards the end of his career, especially the Ferrari era, where it was like, no, Sebastian's just not used to, it's not ground effect cars anymore. He'll get used to it once this new reg change comes in. And it kind of just never happened. And then the switch with Leclerc after Canada 2019, Leclerc took the reins of Ferrari and just, it was that whole situation. Now, we also must mention Lewis did have a bollard under his car in qualifying. The funniest part about this is that was self-inflicted. He didn't see the corner. It was such terrible conditions, drove straight over the bollard and it was stuck under the car, just like Abu Dhabi last year. Unlucky. That's Lewis's fault. He drove into the bollard. That's true.
Last year, and the funniest thing about the bollards is that the one he hit last year was flung at him. That wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Green and white and matched his Mercedes. And this bollard was red and matched
the matches Ferrari. Yeah, I love that. I love that for him. Yeah. Now,
Talking about sorry, Matt, go.
No, I was just gonna for everyone being all. I don't think he's lost the skill that made him who he was. I think he's still not at his peak because just simply age does that to you. But in terms of experience and everything else, it's all still there. You still see flashes of it. The question is, being stuck with equipment that doesn't work for him, is it going to do his head in like it did Ricardo in? That would be, if I was a Hamilton fan, that's what I'd worry about, is that he would take it more on himself than really belongs there.
It's 15 minutes now. McLaren have been in this meeting with
I'm
the
hitting
FIA.
refresh.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm on refresh. Our live chat's helping us out.
You've got to remember that when people listen back to this, they'll know. So the building up of the tension of how are we going to react won't translate to listening later. But we've got Hamilton. He's got to live up to what Leclerc is doing. And actually, Leclerc looked really strong in this race. He had that big charge. He got past Piastri at first as well. And so he's not having these issues. And when the issues are always on one side of the garage, it's difficult. You've got this marker of Leclerc there that's making it look even worse. And he's performing quite well this season. So a lot of people are putting him top 3 performers this season.
What? Leclerc?
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc.
Look at the internet. Yeah.
Well, he's been good. Sorry, that made it sound like
Russell,
he was horrible.
Verstappen,
My reaction.
Norris, Piastri, I'd put them all up there. Before.
You think Russell's ahead of Verstappen? Oh, fair enough.
No.
In
terms, I'm just
taints
counting.
Verstappen.
I'm just counting. I think you compare Leclerc to Russell. I think Russell's been more consistent and done a better job. He's made fewer mistakes.
Well, yeah, I do look at the grid actually, and I you have a point there. Like it's Verstappen, Russell are your 2 best. McLaren's it's hard to judge because they had the best car, and you might say, well, why aren't you going to include the world champion? Question mark. We don't know if one of them is going to win the world championship yet anyway. Yeah. But then, Leclerc's been up there for sure. I take it. But then also it's like, is that more Leclerc's just, is he defeating a 7-time world champ, or is Lewis so bad this year that it makes Leclerc look so good? I don't know. It could be with that as well.
I just say if you give someone who's used to a very specific, incredibly finely tuned tool, something completely different that doesn't work the same, that doesn't feel the same, you're not going to get the same performance out of him. They have to adapt to it. It's taking him longer to adapt than I thought it would. But I think there's other issues in the background as well, like how accommodating are they being? Are they really, even if they intend to, are they really giving him all the tools he needs to get the most out of that car? And I think my answer is no, probably not. But will that have such a negative effect on his own psychological bearing that it impacts him going forward? That's what I worry about.
You know what's always a red flag, guys, is like when reports come out that there's potentially a blame culture within the team. Oh, there might be a blame culture at Ferrari. That's a red flag already. Like anytime that's happened in Formula One, even in your workplace, How fun is it, Spanners, being at a workplace that doesn't have a blame culture? I don't know if you've ever had one like that.
Well, in my family, we certainly have a blame culture here at home. But someone who'll remain nameless was talking about working with an ex-Ferrari person, and this was in our Discord chat. Was talking about working with an ex-Ferrari person, and they said that the atmosphere really changed when like Braun and John Todt left, and it turned into. And I'm going to quote someone here. It turned into this is an Italian saying. It turned into a more Italian atmosphere where everything was much more passionate. Victories were like the best thing in the world, and losses were treated with utter dejection. And so it does seem like there's this, the blame culture starting from the very top with the Elkan comments still ringing in my ears about the drivers should shut up and dribble, basically, was what came out there. So it does sound like with Vasseur saying, Lewis is demanding. It's like, he's supposed to be. That's what you paid the big bucks for. Just going through my notes here as well. After that turn one, we never covered this, but the sight of about 15 marshals on track in turn one, not on the safety car, was horrendous. That could easily, in low grip cold conditions, could have turned into like bowling balls. That had the potential to be the worst ever incident in Formula One. I know it didn't. I know it's quite far from it, but my goodness, why would you get that close? And they were casually walking as well.
Well, the thing is like, can you imagine if, I don't care if there's double waved yellows in this situation, like Spanners, imagine if all of a sudden a guy's in double wave yellows, he's taking care, and for some reason his front wing falls off, he's locked up, can't steer the car, and he goes piling into, like a bowling ball, like you said, straight into all these marshals. It's completely dangerous. And it was a massive mistake that I feel like it's been swept under the rug as of a couple hours after the race. I feel like it should be talked about a little bit more, but this is what Martin Brundle was on about with tractors and what happened with Jules Bianchi. And he said, one day it's going to turn bad. And unfortunately, it did, with Jules Bianchi, and we don't want to see that. One day this is going to happen with track marshals, and we just do not want to see that happen. It should 100%, if a marshal's on track, I just don't think you can have double waved yellows. It has to be a VSC if there's a human being walking on the track.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think it depends on the timing. You've got a chief marshal, you've got who will have timed people across the track. And it's a question of knowing where everybody on track is. If you got a double waved yellow and you have 80 seconds to get that piece from that corner, then fine, go do it and get back. That's how they've always done it. Virtual safety car, I think, is for once the race strings out a little bit more and you just simply you wouldn't have enough of a gap otherwise without stopping the whole race or bringing out the safety car, which is excessive. But that's just me. I'm old. I
know you're I'm going to move on to Williams for a second here. I know you're a bit of an Albon fan. Carlos Sainz is really having a moment, isn't he, with his qualifying, being right up there, tangling with the front runners. And for Albon, not only is he being shown up on pace a little bit, like today, this was the classic go out there and hit the pace car because you've hit everything else. Has the incident with Ocon, a clumsy overtake and contact with Hamilton as well. It's like he needs the season to end now.
He's been driving well, though, Albon. You're right, though. Like, the form hasn't been going his way to end this season, but apparently he had no radio as well. Now, I don't know if that would make much of an impact in terms of not making contact with people at the start of the race. But yeah, qualifying in the rain, out Q1 exit. The good news for Williams is, this is the anti-Ferrari situation. It's great for them in the constructors, finishing fifth. Extra money is with them as well. And not to mention too, like, does the wind tunnel time, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Matt, but like, how much development can Williams put into the car? Is the wind tunnel time going to hurt them as much, considering the budget that they put into that team? I don't know.
I mean, you always want more time. No, I don't think it will hurt them, because I think that this year's campaign, and probably since Doralton and Vowles took over, they have been looking at 26 and husbanding carefully their resource. So they would have done a lot of 25 development in 24. so as to be able to use as much as possible of 25 development into 26. And because they were further back, they had less steps to go to make a lot more money, which they will then be able to spend next season, increasing the pace of development. No, I'm just going to, we were talking about the 2 or 3 best drivers on the grid. I'm just going to say Sainz going to a new team and third in the rain in the Williams. Like he's a Mercedes, Ferrari. He did Renault power units. Like I don't think there is if you need to hire someone quick who's going to be really good and they've never driven the car before, I'd call Carlos Sainz, hands down, because what he's done this season is very, very impressive.
This season, finishing adapting to the new car, and he's 30 points behind.
Took a while,
Alex
didn't
Albon.
it?
Yeah,
But it took a while. But
time.
now he's there. Like I said, he's having a moment, and he qualifies third. That's no mean feat in those conditions, by the way, and is a bit disappointed that it isn't pole. So I think in his head he's like, this is it. And when you've got that kind of belief, I think that spreads through the team. It's bad news for Alex Albon, but I think most people who aren't Matt would have predicted that Sainz was going to get on top of Albon and be quicker eventually. That seemed like the most likely scenario. And so if you're Albon and you've gone from having Sargent and he gets binned off, and you say your new teammate's going to be Sainz, that is bad news for you overall. And then I think when you're in that kind of situation, that's when things start tumbling. Things start to go wrong. You make mistakes. You have a bad qualifying. You hit a couple of cars. And you go, it's a little bit danger zone from Alex Albon. So yeah, if he could have the season end now, I think he would. But I tell you where I continue to be wrong is Behrman versus Ocon.
Yeah, Behrman's done well, and with that as well, it's good to say that's true. Actually, sorry about this, Matt, but it's good to finally celebrate Ollie Behrman results, spanners that are good, and not celebrate him like he's won a world championship when he finishes like a pit stop behind his teammate in his debut race. I'm sorry. Did I just upset about 700 listeners? I'm okay with that. Like celebrating that world championship and look at Ollie Behrman, P8, incredible. It's like, no, this is the Ollie Behrman we should be celebrating. Consistent, driving well, beating Esteban Ocon, who's a Grand Prix winner. Through a little bit of luck, we could say, but also he did earn that win, So it's good going into the future for this team into next year. Now, I'm not saying Haas is going to just appear round one with a world championship car, but you don't want a young, inexperienced guy. All of a sudden, you're in Australia round one, and Behrman goes, "Oh my God, I'm second, and now I'm pushing too hard, and I can compete for wins." You want somebody who's got some confidence heading into next year, and you've got a veteran alongside him. Now you've got 2 drivers who can, if luckily enough, this car becomes quick next year. These are 2 drivers who can maximize results out of it. Today, points for them, if the McLarens get disqualified.
So do you know where Ocon finished today?
Behind Behrman? No, ahead of Behrman.
Yes. Thank you very much. No, he actually, Ocon, he had that amazing drive in Brazil in the wet. He is in like full wet conditions and like crazy wet conditions. He is kind of terrifyingly fast in a way that implies that you really have no concern for your well-being whatsoever. But no, I like Ocon. I think he got a raw deal at Force India when it got bought and he got kicked out of there. And he's had a hard road back. He's had to race against some of the best people in the sport. And he's won a race. He's finished second and he's finished third. He's got a complete podium in his closet. And he was doing, he was cleaning up the first half of the season. Behrman is a very fast rookie, and he's obviously a very good driver. And he definitely got lucky with the Hamilton-Verstappen fighting and sort of gifting him a couple of positions in Mexico. But then he made the most of it. I don't think either driver has a lack of respect for the other. And like, for example, I was watching the radio today, and he had brake balance issues at the start. He didn't have a great stint at the start. Ocon had a 10-plus tire life advantage on him in the second stint, and they just said it's not worth fighting. He's got the tire, and he was faster to the end of the race. So like he put time between the two of them, But a lot of it just comes down to, is the car working for you today? They didn't get the brake balance from right. He didn't have the performance, even though he got off to a really great start because he drove into that same hole that Lewis Hamilton drove in that was created by all the nonsense early on at the beginning. He was up 8th, I think, 7th. I think he got up to 8th from 13th. And Ocon, of course, was dodging a wild Albon. So,
and he held off Lewis Hamilton for 20 laps. You know, there were a couple shots where we saw Lewis almost run into the wall. I don't know. There was a couple times I saw him run wide at a couple of corners. So well done to Ocon. And he only finished, I think, a second or two behind him at the end of the race. Regardless, whatever issues you want to be involved with that, it's a tremendous performance from a midfield car.
Well, Spanner's back here. That was us talking at 7 a.m. UK time after having been up at 3. Thanks to Jono, who stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning to then record the first bit. So sorry, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, the sound may have sounded a little bit different because we recorded that at Steve's end. I've got a few of your reckons and comments from the Discord. So, consider the show over. But since I'm sat here and I had to do some live switching while that was going on, I thought I'd answer some of your stuff. So let's just go straight into people's comments then. So Jim says, I reckon the betting markets think Piastri is cooked, even though he's tied with Max. Thank you. I do like looking at the betting markets, just as an indication of what professionals out there are thinking. And it's not always in line with exactly the sporting odds, because obviously they've got to consider what people will want to bet, and so and that affects the decisions. Also, I think they do miss some stuff. So I don't know if they have, every site has an expert F1 person, but they used to miss the fact that that Hamilton might set up for the race, for example, so the odds would be skewed a little bit there. Lando Norris, I can't read American odds, is minus 310. So I think that's like 1 to 2, so 1 to 2 on, something like that. And Max is at plus 225, which I'm guessing is, I don't know the American way to bet, but Oscar Piastri is 10 times more, less likely. The odds are 10 times more to win, and that is because he just hasn't been anywhere close to Norris. So it's going to be a huge turnaround in form for him to suddenly just go, I can now go and beat Norris. Where is that win coming from? Where is that qualifying performance coming from? He's not even beating other cars. It's not like he's finishing behind Norris like they were at the beginning of the season, trading 1-2s. He's lost in the pack. And I often wonder, would that same thing have happened to Rosberg in 2014, 2015, even 2016, if the pack had been closer? When you are 2 cars up front, all you've got to do is beat your teammate. But you qualify ahead, and then suddenly you've got a car that's the same as the other car. You don't have a delta for overtaking. You're not going to get a crazy different strategy from your team, especially with McLaren. They're kind of trying to keep it fair. So if the pack starts to swallow you up, you get this situation here. I think that's a big part of why Piastri is now struggling. He's often behind a Ferrari, behind a Mercedes or 2, whilst Norris is up front fighting for the win. So I think that's why the odds are that far out. I think Verstappen is a real danger as far as winning races go. I could completely see him with this new engine going and winning 2 races. I could see that. He could go and win all 3. And I think Lando Norris should be just looking at sticking to the gearbox of Verstappen. Stay out of his way. Make sure he can't run you off the road. Now, there was one here about Piastri being a number 2. I think I think it was Wallace in the chat said that Stella had already said if they were mathematically out, then one driver would back up the other driver. Okay, so here we go. Where is it? But really, to be effective, you could ask them to do it now. Like, now would be the time, but you can't. Piastri is in it technically, and I think if this was in his rookie year or something, you would still be struggling to ask him to make way. You'd have had to have started doing that much earlier in the season, and I just don't think there's any way. It was Paolo.
Oh my God, just caught the results. This is mental. I reckon it's time for McLaren to bless Oscar as their first driver. Yeah, it's not going to happen, especially in the Webber camp. You're going to tell Mark Webber's driver to be number 2 when he's still in it. Dan says, I reckon Max is going to miss out on the championship by fewer number of points than he gave up when he hit George. Yeah, I did mention that at the beginning of the stream. Back then, it didn't look like he was in it. So it felt like, whatever, YOLO. I'm just going to be a spoiler in this battle up front. And you could see him like almost fighting harder with Norris because of maybe the championship and the rivalry. And he sees Norris as more of a rival and was just fighting Norris very, very hard compared to Piastri with the mindset that he wasn't really in the championship running. And I think at 109 points behind Piastri as well, I think it's perfectly reasonable to think you're not in the title hunt. And so this mentality changes. And this is why with the Massa thing and saying, well, you just delete the Singapore results, people will respond differently and make different positions depending on what the points position are and where you are in the championship. Yeah, in an ideal world, 100% every single time. But now Norris is in a position, for example, where because the points are like they are, he's going to be happy finishing in second place. He'll cruise. He's got the Rosberg mentality in 2016. Keep it on the track, finish in second place, go and take my championship home. So if he was behind, it would be maybe a little bit more win or bin. Richard. Oh, I'm called Richard too. I reckon the FIA wants Max to win again. This is a good point. The live points graphics they used all race was highlighting that Max is still in contention for the championship. And then he goes on to say they bent the rules, they'll do it again. I mean, the most likely scenario is they randomly decided to do the top 10, and it just so happened that the McLarens, no argument, they exceeded the limits that you're allowed, and therefore you get disqualified. But you go, whoa, it is like exactly the thing to happen to close up that championship gap. Really, I think it's, you look at that and you go, what are the chances? What are the chances that scrutineering comes in and the narrative of Verstappen's still in it? And in fact, the F1 post was, he's not done yet. And that was when the gap was going to be 42 points. And now he's really not done yet, now that it's only 24. I might have got my maths wrong on that. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It's sport, isn't it? Sport does those things, and it's not uncommon for a team to get disqualified. This plank wear thing has been happening throughout this era. They're testing more cars than they ever have been. So I will say that. The fact that it used to be just 3 when they did it, it was 3. So, yeah, I checked when the Hamilton one happened in COTA, and it was like, nope, only every now and then, but only 3 and never the podium guys. And then now they're testing like 7, they're testing 8, they're testing 10. So anyway, we've only got 2 more races of that issue to deal with. Maria says, I reckon this season is a good argument against the mantra of, but he had a dominant car. It's always been a little bit of a weak thing to use that dominant car as a catch-all, because you can see that if you have a dominant car, you might not cash into it. You might stumble over having a competitive teammate. And you could be hiding the fact that it's your talent that's making the car look dominant. Maybe the Red Bull hasn't been dominant in certain years, but Verstappen's made it look dominant. Or I think I would argue you have years where you have an exceptional car like the Ferrari 2008 car, and the drivers make it look like a bit more of a struggle. To stick with the conspiracy theories, Mike Stoner says, my thing of the week is the F1 scriptwriters. They've done a great job of keeping the season exciting to the end. Entertainment. Stuart says, I reckon Peter Bauer, is an executive producer of Drive to Survive. Like if this ends, if there's any other result than Norris winning the championship, then this is going to be one of the first things that gets pointed to. EJ says, I reckon Terry Cruz's performance of making my way downtown is his thing of the week. Yeah, Jono mentioned that one as well. Excellent. I think I'm going to leave it there because I actually have no idea what the runtime of this episode has been, because it's been hacked and sliced, and I've gone to bed between those 2 episodes, between those two parts. And then I've been watching back and looking at like I could barely open my eyes on the first one. And you can see like I've got a wet head from desperately trying to wake myself up in the shower. So back to a more normal schedule I'm looking forward to. Please give me your feedback, spanners@missedapex.net or in our Patreon Discord, because there's bound to be things that we've missed out on. Don't mind doing corrections. We had a little corrections section, didn't we, on the last midweek show? And it will be the guitar race preview coming up at some point midweek. Please go and follow us at Missed Apex on Patreon. Patreon.com/Missed Apex. That is the lifeblood of not only us financially being able to do these things, but also just of the great community we've got in the Discord. If you look all around us, every single podcast around us in the charts has financial backing from an organization. They're the podcasts that survive. We buck that trend because you guys support us. Yeah, so if you want an ad-free feed and you want to be able to come join us in the Discord and just get that warm, fluffy feeling that my idiocy and Matt's continuing is your fault, then patreon.com/Missed Apex. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. Oh no, I had to job at my job. Yeah, if you ever catch me complaining that this is what I get to do, just give me a whip round the head.